As so often, the Israelites were again at war. This time, David sent Joab out with the Israelite army, but he himself remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman washing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." David sent messengers to get her. She came to him. After all, he was the king, and he slept with her. Then she went back home. Later, she found she was having a baby and sent word to David saying, "I am pregnant." David called her husband Uriah back from the fighting and asked how the battle was going. He was really hoping that Uriah would sleep with his wife that night, so that Uriah would think the baby was his. Uriah refused. He said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my commander Joab and my Lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make love to my wife? As surely as you live, I will not do such a thing." What was David to do? He decided Uriah had to die. So he wrote a letter to Joab and sent it with Uriah when he returned to the fighting. In it he wrote, "Put Uriah out in front, where the fighting is fiercest. Then withdraw from him, so that he will be struck down and die." When Uriah's wife Bathsheba heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. After the time of mourning was over, David had her brought to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing David had done displeased the Lord. Now what was going to happen? After the supper, Jesus with his disciples crossed the Kidron Valley. On the other side there was a garden, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas knew the place, because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. Jesus spoke to his disciples. "Keep watch," he said. "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. When he rose from prayer and went back to the disciples, he found them asleep, exhausted from sorrow. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked them. "Get up and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation." While he was still speaking, a crowd came up, and the man who was called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. Judas approached Jesus to kiss him. Jesus asked him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss. When Jesus' followers saw what was going to happen, they said, "Lord, should we strike with our swords?" And one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus answered, "No more of this." And he touched the man's ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple guard, and the elders who had come for him, "Am I leading a rebellion, that you have come with swords and clubs? Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour, when darkness reigns." Then, seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death, but they did not find any. Finally, two declared, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "What you have said is correct," Jesus replied. "I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." "Blasphemy! He has spoken blasphemy!" the high priest shouted, tearing his clothes in anguish. "Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What is your verdict?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Meanwhile, Peter was still sitting, waiting, keeping as close to the fire as he dared. It was a cold night. Questions. Question 1. Why did King David have Uriah killed? Question 2. In the darkness of the garden, how did Judas point out Jesus to the guards? Question 3. What did Jesus say to make Caiaphas accuse him of blasphemy?